Welcome, brave listeners, to another frightening tale, presented to you by yours truly, Wilhelm. Tune in each week where I entertain my listeners with another dark tale of the paranormal, donated by authors from around the world. If you're an author of some paranormal fiction and would like to share a story with my listeners, submit one at frighteningtales.com. And while you're there, tune into more than 30 hours of previous content. Today's episode is a collection of the shorter short stories I've been donated. The first was written by Aaron Chin, an American student of creative writing literary studies at Bucknell University in Pennsylvania. Aaron takes the plunge into horror writing with a short tale that he calls The Gingerbread Man. Let's go downstairs and bake some cookies, like Mother used to make them. The warm smell sits right at home in your nostrils, invading them like wild axe murderers, hacking and slashing their way through endless miles of human bodies that stand in the way of their inhumane, carnal desires. But that's too dark. It's Christmas after all. So, let's go downstairs and bake some cookies like Mother used to make. One step, then two. Isn't that great? You've never baked gingerbread cookies before? Oh no. Because you always thought that you'd never be able to make them so good like Mother used to. What did she say she made them with? Some kind of special ingredient. What was it? Was it sugar and spice and everything nice? Was it love? That special ingredient that every mother cooks with because you are their extra special little kid. Oh my, this is exciting. Your heart hammers against your rib cage as you set the oven to... Oh, you don't know what to set the oven to. You've never made these before. Probably 300 will be good. You bend down, spin the dial. But what's that? What the heck? There's already a baking tray in there. You take it out, confused. On it, there's a set of perfectly cut gingerbread men. They wear little black tuxedos with white buttons. Their smiles expose endless rows of sharpened white teeth, and their wide green eyes watch you intently with their white pupils. In the center, one of them stares right at you, holding a folded-up note in its tiny dough hand. You snatch it from him, not caring about the little man's feelings. To my little man, my oh my, I can't believe how the years have passed. It seems just like yesterday that whatever secret deity governs this universe sent me to my untimely punishment beneath the earth's soil. Now, enjoy these cookies. I hope they taste just like how Mommy used to make. Love, Mother. Ding! Apparently 10 minutes pass while you read that short letter. But to be fair, you don't read it once, do you now? You read it time after time until the words start doing tangos in your head as they spin spider webs around one another. Now, after it dings, you're supposed to put the cookies in and start the baking, Mother said. How hot do you bake them, you ask? Hot. Very hot, Mother said. But Don't they not like being so hot? Oh, these little guys won't mind at all, Mother said. She slid the tiny man into the 300-degree heat chamber. She smiled. There was really nothing to it. Nothing to it. Well, there's nothing to it, you think, as you slide the baking tray in. And as the minutes tick by, their faces change. No more are the artificial smiles plastered on by a woman who would ruthlessly murder them. Now are the faces of men who know their deaths are coming. Smiles that slowly flatten into the corners as 3 minutes turn to 4, 5 minutes to 6, until the red frosting of their mouths fall clean off, and they can't shout for help. Just as you couldn't call the ambulance when their mother started clutching her heart and breathing heavily minutes after she slid the baking tray filled with small people into the oven for the final time, yelling for you to get to the phone, to get up, to do something and not just sit there as the people cook in their torture chamber. One of them pokes its head up, its blank eyes staring into your heart, its lifeless, dull, unknowing of the infernal fire around it, like you on that fateful night, not knowing that Mother will soon be gone for good. It looks at you, and then it stands on its 2 stubby legs, stumbling as it gets up. It walks to the edge of the baking tray, carefully navigating around its still dead, unconscious friends as they lie down, their backs against the aluminum sun-hot surface. It looks its friends in the eyes, and maybe it thinks, "I'm sorry that I'm here and you're not," and then steps over the edge, falling down into the oven's fiery, incomprehensible bottom. Mother? Why was she on the ground? Why were her eyes closed? She may have been asleep for all you knew. Maybe she was. Maybe. And then they all stand up. They look like an army, all dressed in their uniform suits. One of them peers down and looks at its friend, all dismembered and burned on the oven's floor. It looks more like charcoal than a body. They form a single file line in the middle of the tray, a gingerbread snake, if you will. And one by one, each of them takes turns taking suicidal leaps off the edge. And one by one, you catch their faces as they take their fateful falls. "Stop crying, kid," they all say. "Mother will be okay." The gingerbread charcoal pile grows and grows until it is a small mountain. In it, you see a face. "Mother?" And she smiles the gingerbread smile, looking at you. And you can't tell if it is a smile of relief or a smile of scorn. But it doesn't matter. Your mother's smile is the thing you have always wanted the most. And if this was the way you got it, then so be it. But that smile rang hollow, now devoid of any meaning, any life, an eternal reminder that Mother is gone. And who's to blame for that? And yet you bake those cookies every year, forgetting that you tried the year before, because the waves of memory force their dark underbellies to recede. And every year you hope that they taste like how Mother used to make. Our second tale is by author Larry Brown, a self-taught writer from Mississippi. After trying on several different jobs, Larry landed a career as a firefighter, where he operated for the Oxford Fire Department for over 16 years. And in that time, Larry taught himself to write and attended the University of Mississippi for some fine-tuning. Not unlike every author, Larry had a long list of work that was turned down before he started to see himself published. Before his sudden death in 2006, Larry had written a large body of work that included many short stories, novels, and collections of short fiction. One such tale is today's second story, Nightmare by Larry Brown. Sleeping, he had a vision. Cold, he shivered and turned. The walls pressed around him in his dark, sick room, and he saw that strange visitors had arrived to torment him in his dreams. They did not touch him. Snoring, he slumbered awake. Bad things had come to haunt him, fingers forced through rotting wood that come to seek him. "Look at us," they said, and bones bore out their testimony. "Have we gone to a better place?" Their hair had fallen away in patches. Their skulls were damp and mildewed, gray with age. "You've got it good here," they said. "Up here, on the hill. You should try it a while down in the bottom, where we stay. Do you think this is bad? Try sleeping on wet sheets." But he was afraid it would not answer. Chilled, he quaked and turned in his raiments. "Polyester," they said, fingering the material. "Look at this. Hey, Fred, come here and look at this. They don't use silk anymore." He did not understand. Confused, he shut his eyes and ears. What nightmare came with consciousness? "You're new here," they said, "aren't you?" "We thought so. We feel their shovels, the vibrations, carry even their footsteps. Was it nice? Did many shed tears for you?" Betrayed, he clasped his hands, weeping. He felt no pulse. Eviscerated, he had no heart. The faces settled around him. Chieftains gathered about a council of fire. Some shot through the head. Others burst open at Belleau Wood. Here, one fell at Shiloh. "See his missing arm?" this one said. "You might be interested to know that in 1866, 45% of the public funds collected by the state of Mississippi was spent on artificial limbs. No? Then how about this? Fred here was walking down the road in 1942 on his way to join the army when he was run over by a family of people of German descent. They were sausage makers. Isn't that a riot? 4 of them, in a 39 Packard. The old man's the only one left alive. He's got some grandkids on dope in Los Angeles, but he's never seen them. He's hooked up to a respirator in Panama City, and he's been screaming every night for the last 42 years. Fred's been holding a grudge against him." He flailed soundlessly against the sweaty material, and a weight seemed to have settled on his chest. When he opened his eyes, a small, rotted child was sitting there. "No ice cream," it said. Its skull had been halved, and one mad orb leaned out on a red strand like the eye of a broken doll. No ice cream. puppies I could have had, swimming in creeks and touching girls at 14. But it was not his fault. None of it. Silent. He screeched and tried to gag. Labored. Fought. With his knotted fists, which had no shape or existence. Struck mightily, but without progress. Panting, he lay composed. Thin beads of sweat never formed. A nightmare, he said. I'm having a nightmare again. They smiled to see his logical mind. All that ordered facts to explain his embalmment, the varnished casket beginning to mold. One in tattered rags lay upon him, stretched out, full and cold, feet to feet, hip to hip, toe to toe. You can just stop all this foolishness right now, it said. You might as well get used to it. We're here to help you. And finally he found his voice. Found that indeed he did have a voice. I am sick, he said. I am a very sick man. I need my rest. The faces watched. Gray. All gray. They'd seen it before. And kids, he said. 2 in high school. One plays the guitar. He's good on Hank Williams stuff. When I'm well, we sit out on my porch and he plays for me. They watched him. Somnolent. Ravished of emotion. Sleepwalkers. One yawned. Gristles hinged on a cusp of bone. And this is just a nightmare. The medicine. I've had them before. Nurse, would you come in here, please? Something wet and dark came inside the circle of faces. A leprous, glistening thing that hissed and touched him with shards of heat. Small fires danced in his ribs. They bared their teeth, and it howled and vanished. Smoke left in its trail. He felt the cold take him again. And my poor wife, he said. She worries about me so. She can't sleep at night. Reconciled, they let him talk on. Wise, they waited. Old, they gripped their tattered rags about themselves and leaned forward to speak of dreams and demons and faded plastic flowers. Dead, he heard weeping high above him, and finally understood. Our third and final author is Ron Wolf, an American author of horror. Ron has written many short stories and co-authored several successful novels with author John Woolley. You can find a number of Ron's works in any bookstore, most notably Old Fears, Full Moon, and Death's Door, all of which were very well received and quite notable. Today's tale is one Ron calls Laughs, Thrills, Romance. Barnum gave him the kind of look that went with a bad joke. A wink of the eye that was more like a twitch. Think of it this way, Charlie, the doctor told him. You don't have to take that damned medicine anymore. Charlie Angus tried to laugh, but found, as he always suspected, the last laugh doesn't amount to much. How long have I got? Charlie asked. The doc shrugged. and his forehead crinkled into ripples of worry. Charlie remembered the rooster red hair that Doc used to have there, thick and wavy, in place of the wrinkles and age spots. "A while," Doc said. "Everybody knows? If they don't, they can pretty much guess." Doc nodded toward the closed white door. "I told them no visitors, Charlie, but they're still out there." Charlie watched the white tiled ceiling. Day by day it seemed closer, as if he could only hold it back by carefully watching. "I don't want a bunch of sad farewells, Doc." "I don't blame you," Doc said, and sank into the cracked upholstery of the chair at Charlie's side. A sweet scent stirred from the flowers on the bed table. The air smelled of roses and silence. "Well," Charlie finally said, "so who's all out there?" "Mildred Owens," Doc said, "with a lemon chess pie for you. Been there all morning and holding that pie with both hands, Charlie." Eyes closed, Charlie could see her there, but not as the dotty old lady trying to cheat death with a pie. He could see her as Millie, who almost had married him. He could feel the sting of blowing rain just as he felt it the night Millie had told him the wedding was off. "I just can't," she said, there on the porch. Millie, blonde hair and angel blue eyes, tears in the rain. "Oh, Charlie, you deserve a better reason, but I don't have one." She never did marry, neither did he. And she became one of those dried apricot women who live behind fences and look at the ground and wait for the end. Charlie had never stopped loving her, but he learned to stop showing it. Who else?" Charlie said. "Barney Morgan," Doc answered. "You really ought to see him, Charlie, before he wears a hole through the floor pacing in circles out there. Oh, always the restless one." Barney was. High school, Charlie thought. Senior year, and the big trip was Barney's idea. They would hitchhike to New York, take a steamer to Spain, and that's just for starters. They had talked of Rome and the Taj Mahal, and they'd taken to smoking big cigars behind the drugstore, and they'd both gotten jobs and saved their money. They'd really meant to do it, Charlie thought, and they would have. But they'd only gotten as far as the edge of the highway outside of town. Barney had said, "Ah, hell, Charlie, look." Barney'd had a cardboard suitcase that he'd snapped open, showing it was empty. He'd dropped it and given it a kick. "You go on, Charlie," he said. "You do it for the both of us." They'd walked back into town in the cold light of the dawn, and Barney became one of those slumped old men who never seemed to have gone anywhere. A gnarled old tree rustling and creaking all the time. And that's all. Charlie had gone to New York once, but it was years later. He'd bought a plaster copy of the Statue of Liberty. It was for Barney, but it had broken on the way home. "Who else?" Charlie said. Don recited the names of a half dozen more, but Charlie wasn't listening, except for the song that played through his mind. He called it Twilight Beginnings. He'd written it for Millie, but had never got to sing it for her. Nobody else had ever heard it. It was better than High Tide or even Apple Summer, which he had sold to a music company in Nashville. They had told him that Red Foley was gonna record it. It was gonna be Apple Summer all over the country that year. But nothing ever happened. Time had cut like a scythe, and Charlie had become one of those silent old men who learn not to question why things keep being taken away. He'd learned there's nothing that makes the world go round. It just does. He'd learned that life goes on, but not forever. "Charlie?" It was Doc's voice. But suddenly a clouded distance away. Charlie felt himself rising, until he could touch the ceiling, but there was no substance to it. Fever dream, Charlie thought dizzily. But even then he knew it wasn't. He felt chilled to the heart, looking down. Below, Doc was bending over a pale shape on the bed. Charlie called to him, and the gathering darkness. The darkness closed, and for Charlie, the world just went away. It left him falling. A bell rang from somewhere and everywhere, and he was sliding almost weightlessly down a blackened tunnel, now curving, now straight, towards a light of intense, glorious white. He yearned for the light, but when it came, there was no comfort to it. It seemed to explode over him. Everything was blurred and white-edged. And there, a shifting of motion, something waving in front of his face. Charlie forced himself to focus on the light. He wiped at the tears that made it fracture into blinding facets. Breath frozen, he stared disbelieving at the familiar hand that beckoned him. The hand extended from a candy-striped sleeve, and it waved a bright yellow ticket. Something was said to him, but Charlie lost the words in the calliope of merry-go-round and the clanking and laughter of a Ferris wheel. The air tasted of cotton candy. High to the side was a glittering sign made of thousands of many-colored bulbs that clicked and popped on and off, wave on, wave, and promised laughs, thrills, romance. "Apologize," the voice was saying. Charlie connected it to the hand, to the peppermint arm, to the freckled face of a kid who looked unbearably concerned. "Please, mister, take the ticket. Go again," the kid was saying. "It's free." Charlie blinked. "Go?" he said. The ride. Look, mister, we don't blame you for being mad about it, but please don't complain to the management. It's all fixed." Charlie reached to accept the ticket. Numbly, he saw that his own hand was no more an ugly thing of sharp knuckles and swollen veins. It was smooth and translucent, almost like glass. "Honest," the kid said, nodding. "Some of the connections came loose before, but everything works now." He laid it on with a grin. "Boy, you must have wondered what was going on." I wondered," Charlie said. "Truth is, we've been having some trouble with it before, like, people you thought you were friends, and they change for no reason, then they go off and forget about you. You didn't think that was supposed to happen, did you?" "I wondered," Charlie said. "But it's so gosh darn hard to find somebody who knows how to fix these things, and meantime, it got worse." The kid scuffed the toe of his shoe against the red and white striped platform. Charlie realized for the first time that he was sitting in a ride car, that looked like a griffin. And ahead of him was an orange dragon, and behind him a calico cat. I talk too much, the kid said. Management's gonna get on to me. What I mean to say is, you could be doing me a big favor, okay? Just try it again. It works now, mister. It really does. Charlie's hand closed on the ticket. Way to go, the kid said, grinning. And here. The car jumped a little and began to move forward towards a pair of striped doors. The kid ran alongside, giving Charlie a red balloon and a double dipper ice cream cone. You're gonna love it this time, the kid called, and his voice disappeared into echoes. The door bumped open and Charlie felt warm, floating, and comfortable. So, Charlie thought, so. If it doesn't work the first time, then you get to go again. Millie. And the ride began. Thank you, brave listeners, for joining me for another in a series of dark tales. I do implore you to seek out more writing by today's authors at your local bookstore or out on the web. Fans of Frightening Tales can show their support by collecting merchandise available at frighteningtales.com. Purchase a shirt, a hoodie, or stickers, and join my marketing army of walking billboards. If in the very least, just share frighteningtales.com if you can. It'll invite more authors to want to share their stories with us. And then tune in next week for another tale, if you're brave enough.